My name is Alex, and my wife, Sarah, and I moved into the pristine, cookie-cutter neighborhood of Crestview Estates 2 years ago. We knew about the HOA going in. The rules were a binder thick enough to stop a bullet. We figured, hey, neat lawns, uniform mailboxes, no one painting their house neon pink. We can live with that. We were naive. The trouble began on a sunny Saturday. Sarah's mom had given her a whimsical, slightly goofy-looking garden gnome holding a tiny fishing rod. We named him Bartholomew and gave him a proud place next to our petunias. He was harmless. He brought us joy. The following Tuesday, the first letter arrived. It wasn't an email. It was a formal, cream-colored envelope, hand-delivered to our door, smelling of entitlement and printer ink. Crestview Estates Homeowners Association. Official violation notice. Case number 742. To the residents of 123 Sunny Lane. From the Covenant Compliance Committee, Charlene Vanderhoff, President. Date: October 12th. Subject: unapproved exterior ornamentation. It has come to the attention of the committee that you have installed a non-conforming, figurative lawn ornament, gnome, within your front lawn landscaping per section 14.8.2b of the Crestview Estates Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions, CC and RS. All exterior ornaments not explicitly listed in the pre-approved HOA catalog, see Appendix D4, require prior written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. This item has not been approved. You are hereby ordered to remove the violative item within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in a fine of $50 per day until the violation is remedied. Sincerely, Charlene Vanderhoff, HOA President. I read it twice. Sarah laughed until she saw I wasn't joking. $50 a day? For Bartholomew? Is this a joke? I wish it had been. I decided to be reasonable. I went to the next HOA meeting, a thrilling affair held in a sterile community room that smelled of lemon disinfectant and quiet desperation. Charlene, call me President Vanderhoff, held court at the head of the table. She was the physical embodiment of a speak-to-the-manager haircut, wielding a laser pointer like a scepter. I waded through 20 minutes of debate about mulch color variants. Espresso brown was not the same as dark walnut, people, before I raised my hand. Alex, from 123 Sunny Lane. About the gnome violation. Charlene peered over her rhinestone-studded glasses. Ah yes, the grotesque figurine. Have you removed it? Not yet. I was hoping to understand the process for getting it approved. It's a gift from my mother-in-law. It means a lot to my wife. She sighed, as if explaining gravity to a toddler. The catalog exists for a reason, Mr. Alex. To maintain a cohesive aesthetic. We can't have just anything popping up. Next thing you know, the Millers will want a pink flamingo and the Garcias will install a concrete donkey. It's a slippery slope to anarchy. I blinked. Anarchy? It's a 1-foot-tall gnome. Unapproved gnome, she corrected. The fine stands. Remove it. I left that meeting with a new understanding. This wasn't about rules. This was about power. And Charlene loved wielding it. We moved Bartholomew to the backyard out of sight. But the die was cast. Charlene had marked us as non-compliant rebels. The violations started rolling in. Our grass was a 1/4 inch too long. A single, brave dandelion dared to bloom near the sidewalk. Our trash cans were visible from the street for a full 7 minutes after pickup. The fines were small but incessant, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. But I'm an engineer. When pushed, I don't push back blindly. I strategize. I started documenting everything. I took time-stamped photos of my pristine lawn the day I mowed it. I filmed the trash can retrieval with the precision of a NASA launch. And most importantly, I downloaded the 120-page PDF of the HOA CC and RS. I read it. All of it. Every mind-numbing, legalese-filled page. Meanwhile, I'd done something else that apparently ruffled Charlene's feathers. I'd bought a Tesla. And with it, I'd had a sleek, state-of-the-art wall connector installed on the side of my house. The install was permitted, professional, and, I'd assumed, none of anyone's business. I was wrong. One evening, I was washing my car when Charlene materialized beside me. holding a small dog that yapped in rhythm with her displeasure. "Nice car," she said, in a tone that implied it was anything but. "Thanks, Charlene. Saves a fortune on gas." And that thing on your wall, the charger. It's rather unsightly." "It's pretty minimalistic," I said, keeping my tone even. "And it's on my property." "Everything on your property is the association's concern," she chirped. "But that's not why I'm here. My nephew is visiting next week. He drives one of these electric cars. A Nissan, I think. He'll need to charge it. I've given him your address. Be a dear and let him use your charger while he's here." I was stunned. Not a question. A demand. "I'm sorry, Charlene, but that's not really convenient. The charger is specific to my car's software, and the electricity isn't free." Her face tightened. "It's just for a few days. Surely you can be a team player for the community. We're all neighbors here." The audacity was breathtaking. She was fining me for a dandelion while demanding free access to my personal property. "I'm going to have to say no. He can use the supercharger off the highway exit." She glared at me, her lips a thin, white line. "Fine. We'll see about that." The next violation letter was waiting for me the next day. Unauthorized external electrical modification per section 22.3.1. Potential safety hazard. Must be inspected by an HOA-approved electrician at your expense. I laughed. It was a pathetic, desperate move. The bylaws had a clause about major external modifications, but it was clearly intended for things like adding a new electrical service panel, not a pre-approved, permitted EV charger. She was making it up. The war was on. Her nephew never came. It was a bluff. But her new violation was my tipping point. I went from defensive to offensive. Late into the night, I cross-referenced the bylaws. I became a scholar of HOA law. And that's when I found it. The motherlode. While Charlene was obsessed with my grass length, she was violating the CC and RS in ways that made Bartholomew look like a federal crime. Section 8.4.2. No signage of any kind is permitted on any lot, with the exception of 1 professional grade for sale sign. Violation. Charlene had a massive, lit-up, Happy Holidays sign on her roof every December. I had photos from last year. Section 12.1.0. No structure, including sheds, shall exceed 1 story in height or 120 square feet without ARC approval. Violation. She had a gigantic, 3-story custom-built playset for her grandkids that was basically a backyard fortress. No approval on file. Section 18.7a. The operation of any business, trade, or craft for commercial purposes within a residence is strictly prohibited. Violation. Her Pampered Chef home business was well known. She used her garage to store inventory and hosted parties multiple times a month, with client cars clogging the street. She wasn't just a hypocrite. She was a serial violator. I compiled a dossier. Photos, dates, bylaw references. It was a thing of beauty. I shared it with a few neighbors I knew were also sick of her reign of terror. The Crestview Resistance was born. We decided to bring it all to the next open meeting. The community room was packed. Word had gotten out. Charlene sat at the head table looking smug. "Now," she said, adjusting her microphone. "First order of business. The continued non-compliance of 123 Sunny Lane regarding their unpermitted electrical apparatus." I stood up. "Actually, Charlene, before we get to that, I have a few compliance issues I'd like to raise." She looked annoyed. "This isn't an open forum, Alex. You need to. It's under member concerns. Section 3.2 of the meeting protocol," I said smoothly, holding up my printed bylaws. "I've come prepared." I walked to the front and plugged a thumb drive into the community TV. Her eyes widened. "Let's start with something simple. Bylaw 8.4.2. No signage." I clicked. A glorious, high-definition photo of her house with the massive Happy Holidays sign lit up like a runway appeared on screen. A murmur went through the crowd. Next, Bylaw 12.1.0. Structure height limitations. Click. a picture of the Viking longship-sized playset in her backyard. Finally, and this is a big one, Bylaw 18.7a, Prohibition of Home Businesses. Click. I showed a screenshot of her public Facebook page advertising a pampered chef megasale, with the address clearly listed. Another click. A photo of her garage, door open, revealing walls of boxed inventory. The room was dead silent. Charlene was pale. "This is an invasion of privacy," she sputtered. "These are all from public view," I said calmly. "Just like my garden gnome and my EV charger. It seems the rules are for everyone but you, Madam President." Then I delivered the coup de grace. "And regarding the charger? The bylaw you cited, Section 22.3.1, refers to modifications requiring a building permit. My installation was permitted and passed inspection by the county. Here's the certificate." I held it up. "Your violation is invalid, and your demand that I provide free electricity to your family was an outrageous abuse of your position." The dam broke. Other neighbors started standing up, voicing their own grievances about petty fines and her hypocrisy. It was a beautiful, chaotic uprising. Flustered and cornered, Charlene did the only thing she could. She doubled down. "This is insubordination. All of you, you'll be hearing from our lawyer. My nephew's lawyer is very powerful, you know?" It was a meaningless threat, and everyone knew it. An emergency board meeting was called the following week. Charlene resigned for personal reasons before she could be officially ousted. A few of her lackeys on the board followed. The new board, which I may or may not have been elected to, spent its first meeting repealing the dumbest rules and establishing a clear, fair process for approvals. Bartholomew the gnome now sits proudly back on my front lawn, a symbol of freedom. But the best part? The poetic justice. About a month after the showdown, I was getting out of my Tesla when I saw Charlene in her driveway. She was staring at the open charge port of her brand new Lexus UX Hybrid, which has a plug-in charging option. She had a jumble of extension cords running from her garage, and she was trying to shove the standard 110V household plug into her car's J1772 charging port. Physically wouldn't fit. She saw me watching. "This stupid car. The dealership said it plugs in. This thing is broken." I couldn't help myself.
I walked over.
"Charlene, that's a 120-volt plug. Your car needs a 240-volt J177 connector. You'll need a proper level 2 charger installed." "I'm not made of money," she snapped. "This should just work." Then, with a look of sheer determination, she produced a cheap, horrifying-looking adapter from a box. It was a foreign market plug converter that she'd probably bought online. She forced it into her car's charge port and plugged the frayed extension cord into it. There was a loud pop from the adapter, a shower of sparks, and a small puff of smoke. The lights on her car's dashboard flickered and died. She had just sent 120 volts of AC power straight into the car's sensitive charging system, completely bypassing all the safety protocols. She'd quite literally fried her own ECU. She yelped and jumped back. I just shook my head. "Should have gotten it permitted and installed by a professional, Charlene," I said, unable to keep the smirk off my face. "It's a potential safety hazard, after all. You might want to get that inspected." I got in my Tesla, which hummed to life silently and efficiently, and drove away. I didn't look back. Sometimes karma doesn't need a charger. It runs on its own perfect, high-voltage current. So yeah, HOAs. Am I right? Video ends with a shot of Bartholomew the gnome giving a thumbs up next to the Tesla charger.